Good morning, afternoon, depends which, depends whether you've had your lunch yet. Hello, Facebook. I am back, hello, with Paul Courtney. Paul, hello, how are you?
Afternoon, you all right?
Good, thank you. I'm very jealous of, so I spoke to Emma just before and she had sun streaming in through her window and you appear to have sun streaming in through yours.
I've got loads of sun streaming in, look. Got to close the blinds because it's too bright.
Yeah, it's not a problem I've got here, I'll be honest. How's things? How's life?
Good, thank you. Middle of the week, really busy week. It's like everything's opened up, everything's on. We've got dinners, we've got runs, we've got everything happening left, right, and centre. So it's a bit of a fun week this week.
And I've just had this massive shocker. I've realised, for those of you who this is relevant to, it's half term next week. We've got one more this week and one more week, and then kids break up next Friday. How on earth we're at half term already? I genuinely don't know. But yeah, so kind of half term klaxon for anybody like me who hadn't yet realised that was the case. 22nd of October is half term day. Hooray! So on that cheery note, Paul, please, for the people who don't know you, would you just tell everybody who you are and what you do, please?
So my name is Paul. As you've probably gathered by now, I am Director of Fundraising for Children's Hospice Southwest, which is an awesome organisation that covers the whole of the Southwest Peninsula. One of the biggest children's hospices in the UK in terms of the number of hospices we have and the geography that we cover as well. So a real honour and a privilege to be in that role. I've been there for about 2.5 years. Before that, I was a fundraising consultant and trainer and did a lot of teaching fundraising. Had the privilege of working in lots of organisations over the last 20 years, cathedrals, children's charities, special schools, a whole different rafts of organisations, charities working with adults with learning disabilities, a real range, and arts and cultural organisations as well at the very beginning. So lots and lots of different experience, but in my current role, I absolutely love what I do. Having grown up in the West Country, it's a cause that obviously is really relevant to me. As a dad, it's a cause that I can absolutely get behind and a cause that breaks my heart regularly. I get the real privilege of meeting parents that have gone through the unimaginable, and they so beautifully and honestly and bravely share their stories, and it breaks me. And as a fundraiser,
and then you come in to thrive and break us all with those stories.
Sorry about that. But hey, you know, as fundraisers, that's what we do, isn't it? Absolutely. And if you know, we wear our hearts on our sleeves, and I believe that one thing you cannot fake is sincerity. And it's a joy to me to lead the fundraising for an organisation that does break my heart and that I can be passionate about, and I can really drive forward. So yeah, I love my job, and I love my team, and I've got a great team of about 35 fundraisers right across the peninsula. Covering all the different types of fundraising that you would expect.
Amazing. And so we've done organisation, we've done team size. Roughly, what's your fundraising income in a year, Paul, roughly?
So we need to raise across all revenue streams, which obviously includes retail and statutory income bits and pieces. We're looking at between 40 and 50 million a year. So we're a big organisation. Which I often struggle with because I often forget that I'm not a small little tiny charity in the Southwest, that actually we're quite a big organisation.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me about, so yours was one of the funny emails that I got. Tell me why you joined Thrive.
Why did I join Thrive? Well, for the last couple of years, like we all have, we've journeyed through uncharted territory, and I'm not going to drop all of the stupid sayings and things about boats and storms and all that nonsense, but we've all, you know, we've all had to relearn. And I've constantly said to people over the last couple of years, no matter how many times I've reached for my fundraising strategy books and research books on the shelf, there isn't a chapter in there that says how to manage in a global pandemic. It's a real shame because that would have been really helpful, but it's not there. And we've all had to just go with it. We've all had to innovate, we've all had to lead, we've all had to absolutely be the best we can be.
Yeah.
And as fundraisers and as fundraising leaders particularly, I believe we're the kind of people that just earnestly and completely give, because that's just in our nature and in our character.
Yeah.
And there comes a point where you can't give anymore. And actually that's really hard.
Yeah.
As individuals like us, because we want to be able to.
Yeah.
And what Thrive looked like it was going to offer to me, and what it absolutely has delivered week after week after week, is that opportunity for a pit stop, is that opportunity for protected time for me as an individual, as a person, not just as a fundraising leader, as a person, because I think that's really important too, to really learn more, to grow more, to ask those difficult questions, to enable me to then be better for those people that look to me for all those answers.
And it's a scary place, that, isn't it? That whole, we in organizations of this size, we're still not the massives, we're not the cancer researchers, we don't have reams upon reams of resources that are just there for us. And so you can feel like you'll be sitting there and realize that actually everybody's looking at you for the answer. While you're looking around the room, you go, oh, who's going to answer this question? And the trustees are looking at you, and the CEO's looking at you, and your fellow directors are looking at you, and your team's looking at you, and you go, oh, fuck, they want me to answer that. And I just, maybe on this occasion, I don't know that I can fully blag this enough. I know a bit, but I don't know that I know. And like, you know, like you, I, like Emma before, like Michelle, we've worked in this sector for 20 odd years. You still haven't done everything. You still don't know everything. There's still going to be blind spots and bits that you don't particularly like, or that you've just never had the need to do. And yeah, and it is that when you just sit there and go, oh God, they're looking at me. Twiddle thumbs. What can I do to divert this?
Yeah, and feigning the fact that your camera's broken on Zoom will only get you through so many of those putting off the moment.
Pretending that your screen's frozen, going, oh, but the clock's still ticking in the background.
Yeah, or a child dives in to nick something off your desk and ruins the illusion completely. You know, it's a tough place to be, actually. And I think particularly I've got the great benefit of being part of a really great senior leadership team who are really supportive, who to an extent get fundraising, and that's cool, absolutely great. But I say to an extent, kindly yet pointedly, because there are those moments where I come out of one of those meetings and I think, why don't you just get this bit?
Yeah.
And what happens on a Wednesday afternoon is I sit in a Zoom room with people that get that bit, that do that bit, that share that frustration, that share that passion and that energy, but then get this awesome input from this collective of experts from around the world that challenge and innovate and explore in a really open and constructive way. You know, a few weeks ago when we had to submit a piece of direct mail, you know, I pressed send going, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, and the result was so affirming, but also with so much in there that I went away to think about, to process, to improve. And that's so encouraging.
Yeah, I think I've got, in the last 6 months, I've got a few favourite calls, and I think they're all my favourite, but for a different reason. I sound a bit like Bruce Forsyth, you're my favourite, but there is something awesome in every single call. There's not necessarily a light bulb moment for everybody, but either you've nodded along and gone, I'm so chuffed that you've said that because that's what I'm doing and it's really great, or I had never thought of that. That's just, and there's one of those in every call, and you just go, it's just gold. That's what it's just amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Jen Love and your piece of direct mail will forever, forever. Yeah. So if you haven't heard, if Paul hasn't told you the story, Jen Love told him. So when Jen and Jen in our IG session asked people to submit their most recent campaign, and they would talk about either one that had gone out or one that was coming up, and they gave some amazing feedback about it, and it was amazing for everybody.
Yeah.
But Paul's was one of those stories we talked about a family, and Jen was in tears on the call, saying it was how did she word it? You'll know this.
I'm going to pretend that I vaguely remember the words, and I haven't got them written on a post-it note here on my desk. The best call to action she's ever seen.
Yeah. And so the call to action got read, and then everybody was crying, and we went, yeah, that's pretty good. That, where do I sign up? That's just.
But there's so much in that as well. And whilst I ride the wave of that, that was the yay moment. But there was also pages of scribbles that were like, this is what we can do. This is where we can take that further. This is how we can continue that narrative. And this is how we can engage donors in this story. Next step, next step, next step. That I went away just feasting on.
Absolutely. I want to do it now. I want to do it now.
But even more than that, and this is what I love about the program, is that now all of my teams are feasting on that gold, and they're going, oh, we could do that with it, and we're going to do this with it, and what do you think of this? And it's like that moment where, we as fundraising directors, we're in this protected space within Thrive where we get that input, and then we can then funnel that out. And that's why the model you've created is so strong, because without that, it gets diluted. Without that, there's too much other noise, and there's operational, and there's annoyance, and there's stuff, and you created this space where there isn't any of that. So we can take that stuff, we can improve, and that helps us as leaders then, because it also teaches us how to share that information, how to be constructive, how to lead well, and inspire our teams.
It is a bit good, isn't it? It's so hard. I've said this so many times, but I did, when I was kind of coming up with what could potentially have helped me stay as a director of fundraising, albeit my circumstances were just so very different that I needed psychological help as well as anything else. It was, but what was there that could still give me some sense of purpose, that could still give me that absolute joy that I genuinely, I don't know, because I've never done anything else, but I kind of think that there is no job like being a fundraising director. And with things that are awesome, the problem with things that are so good is that when good is up here, sometimes bad is really through your boots. And it's not, and it's that range of, there must be roles that are just like this, or they're a bit like this. And don't get me wrong, there are some days when I think, can you imagine how amazing it must be to have one? And then I would be bored, and I'm sure that many other people, but we are here 1 minute, and literally one comment from the wrong person can take you or your team and it's that whole, I have to bring myself back up, I have to bring everybody else back up. And what are the things that I would have wanted that could help me do that? And I think, some of what's happened is by design, and some of it is just that perfect storm of it's ended up that way. It's ended up that's how it works. But it's pretty, I do quite like it.
It is, and I think what I love about it is that I can see the impact in my day-to-day. We had an event at the weekend where, and just thinking back to some of the Thrive stuff where we've been talking about storytelling, where we've been talking about engaging people within strategy and organization-wide engagement. And we had an event at the weekend where I spoke, and where I did what I do, and I gave a speech that made people cry. And we had some of our care team there from one of our hospices, and I had the joy then earlier this week of being in one of our hospices, doing some filming, working with some families. And one of the care team staff came up to me and said, "Oh, you made me cry at that event, and I do this every day." And I was like, "Oh gosh, I'm really sorry." That wasn't what I meant to do. But just that ability to use some of that stuff that I was learning to embed that into the ways that I'm relating to people across an organization, it's just so valuable, and I can see it breaking silos. And I think one of the biggest challenges of the last 2 years is that some of those silo walls have snuck back up in organisations, not just in our own teams and functions, but wider across the organisation. And Thrive is literally helping me take a sledgehammer to those silo walls. Get me a bigger hammer. It's brilliant.
I think it's been interesting, hasn't it? Because there have been some silos that have been created that didn't exist before. So there's kind of that silo that says you were furloughed and you weren't. You could work from home and you couldn't. It's something like, this, as if what we need at this point in time is to create a few extra silos. That's what we need. And I do think that there is, if you can look at it, just taking the opportunity to remove yourself from it and go, right, okay, how can I, like you said, the sledgehammer is, quite like the idea of a sledgehammer. Okay, so people who might be on the fence or thinking it's not for them, so I'll be really honest, the two comments I'm coming up against most are the cost, that it's a lot to pay for one person, and that, well, I've already been a fundraising director for however many years, and so I'm not really convinced that I need this additional help. What would you say to anybody who's not necessarily wedded to that view, but who's on the fence? What would you say to them?
I think I would say, I mean, if you look at the cost aspect first, and I know others have talked about this as well, you know, when I saw the cost of it last year, I did think carefully about it, because if, you know, I'm not a wealthy person, so I did have to think.
Fundraising.
You know, I was speaking at a conference a couple of months ago now, and I said, hands up, any of you that work in the charity sector for the salary. And funny enough, nobody put their hand up. You know, we have to think about these things. But when you look at it, when you break it down, when you look at the value for money, it's mind-blowing. You don't get access to that sort of specialist one-to-one and small group interaction for anywhere near that money, let alone the sort of retainer element of it, that all those people are sort of there in the sidelines cheering you on and saying, yeah, let me just give you a little bit of advice here to tweak to make that better. And I think, you know, I often look at my approach to training with my team is very much, you know, I'd love to get somebody in to talk to lots of people rather than send people on the occasional bits, because I feel that's more tactical. But I believe actually at a director level, it's the other way round. You need that intensive, targeted, protected support. You know, when I looked at it, interestingly, the cost was an element for me, but also the time was an element for me, you know, because that, you could also say that's expensive. But, you know, 90 minutes every week or 60 minutes every week, you know, that's expensive. And when I first looked at it, I was like, I said the thing. I said, well, I haven't got time to do that. I've got a busy week. Well, quite frankly, now I haven't got time to not do this on a Wednesday afternoon, because it's my gold in the week. It's my stuff in the week that makes the rest of my week more effective. It helps me raise more, it helps me lead better, and it just invests in me as a director and as a person. That's cheap as chips.
Okay.
What was the other thing? Oh, I've been a director for ages, and I
don't need it.
Don't need to learn anymore. I look at my team, and I'm really committed as a fundraiser to learning, because I always believe that we can be better. So throughout the last couple of years, when I've been leading my team, monthly we have a whole fundraising directorate meeting that is 2.5 hours that is blocked out for training, that is purposely in there for everyone to have focus, to have updates, to touch base as a team, to grow and do all of that sort of stuff. But there is always a focus on something. And the topics are generated from my team. What do you want training on? Who do you want support from? What's the problem? Let's find the answers. And carving out that dedicated time has been incredible for my team. So I'm a proponent for learning, and I genuinely believe, and apologies if this is going to offend anybody, but if you think that you've learned everything, then you just as well apply for your P45 now, because that isn't the approach in the sector that we're in. Things change. You know, the wonderful quote that I love is, never before has change happened this fast, and never again will change happen this slowly. And and that's the space we're in. So there is always stuff to learn. And if that's the mindset you're in, that there isn't anything else to learn, I would really challenge you to flip that mindset. And Thrive will show you there is shitloads more to learn, because I do every single week.
And just finally, Paul, tell me about the team. So I don't know, Emma this morning talked about how kind of informal but yet totally supportive it is. She talks about you appearing with your whispered gold. Just talk to me. Just talk to me about the kind of the squad feel with the rest of the people on the program.
It's incredibly special, and I've only ever experienced it a couple of times in my life before. This kind of dynamic of shared experience and shared abject respect and safety. I used to spend my youth in musical theatre and spent summers being a lovey, and some of my dearest friends are people that I was in shows with nearly 30 years ago. But it was because we went through 8 shows a week, things changing, high stress, high drama, high emotion, teenage relationships, whatever you might, imagine went on behind stage. But it was the strength of those relationships and experiences, and we've got that with other friendship groups that we have in the sector. And that's what happens in Thrive, is that you've got these people that know authentically and deeply what it's like at whatever scale, because they're the same issues, they're the same challenges, they're just on different scales. I sit there and in awe of some of the stuff that other people in Thrive achieve, and I know they probably sit there and look at me and think, oh, well, I love what I could do with 35 people in my team. But what we discover is that our challenges and our issues and the things that we need help with are the same. So there is real safety in that, and there is that real sort of culture of people that are willing and able, because let's face it, there's always people that are willing to give you advice. In fundraising we see it all the time, don't we? Somebody that ran a raffle for the PTA will give you 2 hours of their time to tell you exactly what you need in strategic fundraising. But these people are experienced, knowledgeable, wonderful human beings that know what these challenges are. So they will support, they will challenge, and they will help. And that's before the experts. That's before all of that. So this, this cultivated community is just gorgeous.
And it's weird because you can't, when people sign up, you can't kind of put, if you have an ego, please don't apply. But genuinely, there are no egos, are there? There is no, everybody is just, one fail, we all fail, one rise, we all rise. We're there for, there's just no, and it's, like I say, we don't vet people and go, do we think you might be it's been pretty good.
And and I'm really grateful for that, because, I'm a warts and all kind of guy. And I know that the majority of Wednesday afternoons, not too dissimilar to this Wednesday afternoon, I don't look great, I don't feel great, I don't, spend an hour and a half in hair and makeup before I join a Thrive call, because you just take me as I am. I am pretty much always having my lunch by the time the Thrive call starts, but it's normal life. It's normal life and it's reality. And I think as we go into what is a really tough few months, I think, we're all, our heads are all full of strategies and plans and budgets. We're going into a really rough time where everything's open again, but everything's still on Zoom again. We've got that, particularly as a director, you know, all through the pandemic, our cultures have shifted to ones that we're always available.
Yeah.
You know, I get emails and I get calls, you know, saying, well, I've tried to contact you about this and I couldn't get through, you know, because we've created this space where we're always on tap.
Yeah.
And now things are changing and different, and we're out and we're doing things, and suddenly we're still in that old culture. And that's, you know, when you're leading teams, that's really hard.
Yeah.
So having that protected time is really, really vital, with a group of people that know what it's like.
Amazing. So just finally, Paul, tell me and everybody else so the next 6 months for you, what is it that you think you're going to be relying on Thrive for the most in the next 6 months?
I am going to be relying on a couple of things, really, because I've dipped my toe as somebody that's worked in fundraising, like everybody that's on Thrive so far. You're people that have been around, how insulting, around the block a few times. You know, I'm a generalist. Yeah. I've done bits of everything. I genuinely believe that I'm a jack of all trades, and genuinely don't believe that I'm a master of any. You know, and so I am soaking up some of this knowledge, soaking up some of this expertise, and it's what I'm really valuing is challenging some of my preconceived ideas, and some of, dare I say it, some of the learnings that I taught as a fresh-faced, I got taught as a fresh-faced fundraiser from people that I thought were real experts, and actually they weren't in the real world. And I'm really enjoying having some of that bashed out of me, in a constructive way. So I think the thing that I'm really, really keen on, and the thing that I'm going to be absolutely sucking up, is all the stuff around strategy and innovation, with the wonderful Wayne Murray, really challenging some of the ways, because I think that's some of the biggest archaic structural issues with our sector, is our approach to strategy. So I'm loving all of that, and I'm thirsty for more and more of that, because we're all being told, aren't we, as fundraising leaders, right, we need a strategy, we need a recovery strategy, we need our strategy for the next 5 years, and we're like, what? Yeah, I can tell you the strategy till next Thursday, but that's about it right now. You know, so all of that is really, really vital. I'm going to be really sucking up on all of that information, and then particularly things like corporate fundraising and corporate partnerships, because again, I feel that particularly in the hospice world, let's be honest, our approach to a lot of that is very old-fashioned, and the way we've done it is very old-fashioned, and particularly for me down here in the quaint old West Country, we're about a decade behind everybody else anyway, with most things like fashion and Wi-Fi. Somebody said something about 5G the other day. I mean, it's some mystical thing that apparently is available where there are houses, but not here. You know, so we're always playing catch up anyway. So overlay that to hospice as well. You know, so I think some of that corporate partnership stuff is again has been really vital and continues to be so. But for me, because I'm a storyteller, and I love stories, for me, the individual giving stuff is where I am finding so much joy in learning. And it also is where I know as an organization, we could do so much more. And I'm just so excited to have seen the impact that 6 months of that has already had on my team. And I'm really ready to build on that more and more and more and more, because we know, don't we, that people respond to great stories. Awesome.
So Paul's told you a great story. Please respond. No. So Paul obviously is a current Thrive fundraising leader. You've also heard from Emma and Michelle. There are others in the fundraising directors group who just currently aren't available to speak live. If you want to join up, if you want to come along and see what all the fuss is about, come and get a bit of this, come and have Jen and John's opinion on your upcoming mailing, let alone one that's just gone out, which I guess is probably the scariest thing in the world. To have one that went last week, not next week, is a bit come and join us, come and see what it's all about. You can find the information at purposedrivenpeople.co.uk/thrive. If you've got any questions, if there's anything else you want to ask, email me, grab one of the guys in the group. It closes at 10 o'clock on Monday evening. Once you're in for next week's call. Next week's call is with Zoe Amar. It's on digital and how we're going to move things forward with digital in the next 6 months. Again, the call is totally suited to everybody. There is a theme, and then we apply it to every different instance there is. So it's not the case that, well, there won't be anything in there for you, because there will. If you don't sign up this time, if you don't join this time, and I understand some people can't, the doors will open again at the end of March next year, ready for the intake at the beginning of April. But yeah, that's in 6 months' time. So if you would like some of this stuff that Paul talks so eloquently about, you need to be in before 10 p.m. Monday, basically. So thank you very much, Paul. It's very lovely to see you. I will see you next Wednesday on the call.
Can't wait.
Some of the others will as well.
Yeah, I can't wait to see new thrivers. I think, look, it's like every year, I bet you do this as well, Claire Warner. Every year you sit and watch the London Marathon on the sofa and you think, oh, I'm going to apply and run that next year. You don't? Oh, I do every year.
Never ever crossed my mind, I'll be totally honest.
In my tracky bottoms, eating chocolate, thinking, oh yeah, I could run that. And then the ballot opens, and then a week later it closes. And like, you're in that window now. Get up off the sofa, just do it. Get in training to be an athlete of the fundraising world. Because it's genuinely, and I know others have said it, it's the best 90 minutes of my week. And it genuinely makes me a better person and a better fundraising leader. Who doesn't want that?
Awesome. Great place to leave it. Thank you very much, Paul. Have a great rest of your week. And I'll see you next week. Thank you very much.